We ask people in the fitness industry to challenge themselves and fail, but we're not willing to do it ourselves as a fitness professional, right? Like, step outside your box. You know, you want to be a top business owner, you want to be a top business professional, go see what the top of the people do.
All right, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. This is your host, Eric Malzone. This is episode number 72. I talked to Spencer Tatum. So Spencer is with Advantage Training out of Scottsdale, Arizona. He is the National Performance Director. So he works with pro golfers all the way through the spectrum to your everyday Joe and Jill. And they do it very, very effectively, and they have a booming business to prove it. So in this interview, I've known Spencer for a little while now. I actually met him close to 10 years ago. So we got to kind of close that loop and come back and catch up on things. So it was a lot of fun for me personally. Before I get into a little bit more about this interview, I do have one small call to action. So if you don't know about it already, we have a closed Facebook group called the Modern Fitness Professional, the Modern Fit Pro, I believe for short. It's just a global network of forward-thinking fitness professionals. So if you feel like you should be in that conversation, go join. It's free. It is by application only. So it's on Facebook called the Modern Fitness Pro. Please join us. More about this interview with Spencer and what you can get out of it. So number one, how does Advantage Training work at such a high level? I think that's really key, right? You know how they do it? They really know the basics. They stick to the fundamentals, and those are the things that allow them to do all of the fancy, cool work they do with professional athletes and beyond. Number two, creating a common language between medical and fitness professionals. I think so many fitness professionals are dying to work with medical, but sometimes we lack the professionalism to do so, the ability to speak and communicate their language, and vice versa. So really key points in there, as well as the importance they put within their organization of being able to present effectively. Yes, public speaking is the number one fear of all humanity, but it's something we need to overcome if we want to be successful in this business. So without further ado, this is episode number 72, Spencer Tatum of Advantage Training. Enjoy. Hey, fitness fans, welcome back. Future of Fitness podcast. This is your guest or host, Eric Malzone. My guest is Spencer Tatum. Spencer, welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing, man. I'm doing great, man. It's funny how things come full circle, right? I think when you and I first met, it was like circa 2011. You were training with James Fitzgerald when it was little OPT in Arizona, and I was just there getting educated. And then we finally figured out how we knew each other 7 years later. And here we are, man. It's
well, we would say we're like 6 separations of James. Is that what we're calling it?
Six, yeah, something like that. It was really good. It fits.
I mean, you at least do one Fitz, where he's like,
yeah, or just the hard like grind on the face. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people thank him for bringing them together. So. Obviously, I know a little bit about you, Spencer. If you don't mind, give our listeners some of your background and where you're at now with Advantage Training.
Yeah, I think it's simple. I've always wanted to be a kid. I think that's always what's inspired me. When I was growing up, I was dyslexic. I classified as dyslexic as a young kid, and I found hope and excitement through sport to deal with the challenges in the school education system that didn't really support my disability at the time. I was blessed to have a great mom, but through sport, I found hope. And then along that journey, I had a few injuries. Being the elite track and field athlete, football player, blew some hamstrings, ACL, labrum tear, dislocated elbow, which led me to the journey that I'm in now, that led me to my passion of why I got my degree in exercise physiology, because I was going through this. I was a kid that did everything right. Get there an hour early, stay an hour later, do extra. And then I keep getting injured. I didn't really drink or party, I ate the right foods. I remember I bought the original, I don't know if this goes back a little bit, but I bought Tom Shaw's VHS test. And if you know anything about speed training, Tom Shaw was the innovator of combine training. And when I was in high school, I bought it. I watched the tape. I wrote every single exercise they had, stopped, videotaped it, how many yards he had, and then went and typed it all up. And I would go out to the fields and do it. And that's just how much I was into it, because I wanted to be in the NFL. Like, that was my dream, which led me into, then the injuries led me into, okay, wait, time out. There's got to be a better way of doing this. And you go to therapy, and what did he get? Ice and stem and some ultrasound? But I didn't get hit. Like, my ACL was a non-contact. My labrum tear was a non-contact. the labrum tear was 2002, and no one could explain it. And which led me down this road. I moved out to Orange County, California, worked and got mentored for an unbelievable guy named Todd Norman, who was a former strength conditioning doc of the Ducks. And Todd introduced me to this little book called Athlete's Body and Balance by Gray Cook. And I read it, and I would see it, and then I saw Gray talking Perform Betters. And I would see him do these amazing things like, okay, wait, this guy was about like 18 inches from his toes. And then in 5 seconds, and after like 5 reps of these 2 things, he's touching his toes. Like, whoa, time out. There's something going on here that we're missing the performance side. That led me to passion down that road, which led me into Titus Performance, work with Dr. Greg Rose, which led me into Dr. Charlie Weingroff. And that's where I met James, and led me into James because at that time, everybody you heard on the circuits was, unless you were a CrossFitter, which at that time, this was like 2008, when CrossFit was just starting to catch some wind here. 2009, CrossFit was the devil, and no one should ever CrossFit in their life unless they want to go to the hospital.
Right.
And I met James, and James showed me like, hey, you know what? Doing 5 more reps, doing more than 5 reps on a power clean, you're going to live. You're going to be okay. If you're efficient at the movement, you're going to be fine. Where the NSCA was like, hey, 5 reps, hey guy, woof, don't do that. You might die. And James showed me if you put a science, if you put a scientific approach to the sport of CrossFit, that there's a lot of great stuff in there, which, you know, has inspired more options out there of how we condition athletes, which we were already doing at the time. We just weren't looking at it from the same lens because it wasn't coined CrossFit exercises. So that's kind of my story of, you know, I always wanted to feel good. I always wanted to feel a kid. And then I wanted to help people that had the same challenge that I did, that no one could tell them why are they continue to get the same result? Why are they training and their vertical jumps not increasing? You just did a 6-week block and you lifted heavy, but your vertical jump didn't increase. Why?
Right.
So that's always been my thing, was find that why.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've, so this journey has led to where you are now. So you work with an interesting portfolio of clients. Can you give us some insight into who you're working with? And my first question is, once you explain who you work with, is how do you get the opportunity to work with them? That's what a lot of people would want to know.
Sure. You know, I've been blessed. And I think it goes back to, you know, you care about people, and every day you do a great job and you give it your best every single day. Great things happen to you, and it puts you in the right positions, and continue to strive to get better every single day. And, you know, it's one of our mottos around here at Advantage is, if you can increase 1% every day over 365, you're 365% better. So that's the one thing I'll always try to do, is get a little bit better every day. And from that, you know, we have 3 different vehicles we try to make our impact on. And our impact is to show people where they're at and to show how do they get to their goals and what is their true focus. And so we have a wellness company that's based out of Scottsdale, Arizona, where we're based. That's one of our biggest clients, the Portuguese Guineans in Alabama. And we oversee all their training, nutrition, wellness, and staff. And then we tied back to their medical healthcare spin, in which we've showed things that we can impact, made a huge impact in their community on and off the reservation, their casinos. Or another vehicle that we've reached out, because we're trying to impact as many lives as we can, is our studio model that we have here. Our showcase facilities here is in Scottsdale, where we give resources and guides to get people in their goals. So they can come in and train their house mom, youth athlete, just trying to get fit, to all the way to our high performers, which is our last vehicle, to say, okay, now we got a deconditioned population, a general population. Now let's take to the highest level, the best of the best, where we're playing for all the marbles. And we have a performance management company where we're working with high performance athletes. This is the guys, Jon Rahm, Kevin Minter in the NFL, Lindsey Davenport, who's been who was former number 1 in the world, and we've been multiple athletes. And that way we're taking that level of expertise and applying it to that high level and using data to support our decisions.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, and that's kind of been the biggest thing is that. And I think your second question was, how do you get these opportunities? And, you know, I think I've always been a fan that you're a product of your environment. And I've always tried to strive to not only make people around me better, but I try to be around a community that's going to make me better, and it's going to push me, that's going to challenge me. And that's why I've always reached out to great mentors like James Fitzgerald, Dr. Charlie Weingroff, Dr. Jimmy Ewan, and Todd Norman, another great one. Chris Frankel at TRX had a development there. Dr. Greg Rose, who's just like you go with him for like 5 minutes, your head spins off. So that's kind of been how my success has kind of happened, is just continue to put myself out there and continue to evolve.
Awesome. So you get to work with a wide range of people. How do you treat, like, if a general population, a Gen Pop client and a high performer like Jon Rahm, right? How does that, like, when you work with them, obviously the programs are different, right? Different goals, but is there a mindset approach that you're taking to each one, or is there no difference? How do you approach each one?
The process doesn't change. I think that's one thing that people need to understand. Just because they're an elite athlete doesn't mean they're not going to have the same movement literacy problems that a 15-year-old athlete's going to have, or a general population is going to have. Because you have to remember that repetitive motions over time causes dysfunction. So they become so specialized, they lose out on movement literacy and fundamental skills, such as kicking, striking, rotation. If you look at a lot of the programs we do with our higher performers, they kind of walk in the gym like they're kind of the same. And there's a reason behind that, because the assessment dictates what's going to happen. And I think the thing we were having the other day was, in fitness, we spend 5 minutes on assessment and 55 minutes on a solution that may or may not work. Well, Albert Einstein told us differently, was, hey, let's spend 55 minutes on the challenge, and then we know we can only have to spend 5 minutes solution that's going to work. Yeah. So the process doesn't change. The goals may change, and the intensity of training may change, but the process of getting there doesn't. I think that's one thing that youth trainers need to understand, is don't skip the basics. Check your basics. Make sure you have air in the tires, and make sure you can turn the engine on.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorites is, if you give me 3 hours to cut down a tree, I'll spend the first 2.5 hours sharpening my axe. And that's,
Exactly.
I always keep that in mind. I'm like, God, because I think many of us we can't wait to get our hands on the clients, right? We just want to show them everything we know and all the knowledge we have and get them working. But if we just take a step back, let's really look at every factor of the life, from not just their movement, function, or dysfunction, but their lifestyle, their mindset, all these pieces. And it's, so this is an interesting segue. So having all of that, you guys have some amazing systems in place. You have, great processes and approach to your clients. How are you using technology nowadays to improve that process?
Well, I think that, I had a conversation a while back with Gray Cook, and it was a very interesting conversation. We were having a whiskey together, and we were talking about tech. And I think what we're having the challenge now these days is we're now using tech to drive our decisions, where I think we need to reverse that process. Use the tech to support our decisions. I think that's where a lot of things, like, understand the principles of what you're trying to do, and make sure you get the assessment right, and create the algorithm and the tech to create the training program. Instead of using the tech to create the assessment, and then you're using the tech, because the tech can't measure emotions, can't measure intangibles. It's going to measure when you squat down, did you get to 125 degrees of knee flexion? No, you didn't. Wrong. Okay, you didn't pass that. Well, maybe they can, but you got to be able to dig deeper. And I think the one thing the fitness community needs to challenge yourselves on is, one, are you checking the basics? Like, if they can't squat, ask your question why they can't squat. Do they have the input system to squat? Do they have the ankle mobility? Do they have the hip mobility? Do they have the processing skills to do it? Do they have pelvic control that they can control their pelvis to create so they're not going up and down? It looks like a hip hinge instead of a squat. So I think that's the biggest thing right there, is using the tech. We use tech in our world to confirm our decisions and maybe give us some insights of trends of what's happening, instead of using the tech to drive our decisions.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's as much as tech is coming into play, from assessment, or even just real-time biometrics, things like that. We're still working with people. My favorite quote of a guy who was on the show is Andy Petronic. And he's like, at the end of the day, people still have to pick up the effing dumbbell. We can't just, it's like, I was like, that's brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. So we had talked about, at least over email too, about how you see the integration taking place between, fitness and medical and health. What do you see coming down the pipe, Spencer, on that?
Well, the way the healthcare is changing in our world is that the client care now is the responsibility of the hospital and doctor. And they can't just do what they want and get paid and they're out, right? Now that hospital is now in charge of the life care of that person, right? And they are financially responsible for them. So if they do a surgery, an operation, or procedure, and they are continuing to have that repeat surgery, operating procedure, then the hospital is getting penalized and not just the individual. So that changes the game a little bit. I think it's going to be more of an integrative approach of medical health professionals and fitness professionals working together as one team instead of right now we have is separate silos.
Yep. And
how do we look at optimizing the human first, right, before we look at optimizing performance? Yeah. And then the shift's going to be is instead of how much weight we can move or how much we can crush our clients to how well we can get them to recover with the most minimal dose training.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's going to be the shift.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm curious on your thoughts of, because that's how we want to get there. That's where we want to go, right? That's the point. I think it's a beautiful scenario if we can make that happen. Everyone communicating, maybe technology is the bridge between that. I just see a lot of egos bouncing against each other between, especially like medical professionals, who have 8-10 plus years of education, working with a fitness professional, has, some certifications, been doing it for 5-10 years, are they going to be willing to share information? Have you guys actually experienced a relationship like that yet with medical and fitness and health? Are you guys working in that realm yet?
Hey, absolutely. You have to. If not, you're going to be the guy whistling Dixie, hoping you can make it on the bus. Yeah. I think, what's the first thing I do? Everybody's a human being, right? Mm-hmm. You have to seek to understand and be understood. I think that's step one. Like, if you're over here bashing the medical field, well, why don't you go spend some time with them first? Why don't you get to know them and see where their challenges are first, and then invite them over to come see what you're trying to do and see if now you've spent time with them, go spend money with them, and then they'll come back and probably be your client for the next 10 years. So I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is that we got to get on a common language, right? Mm-hmm. Get on a common language. Like the toughest thing, we do a lot of athletes from different countries that don't speak English, and we still have to train them. So how do we do that, right? Well, it's called about body language, creating human expression. If you walk in your session every time your arms cross, or you're in a meeting with your arms crossed, the client's probably not going to pay much attention to you. If you're sitting there every time you walk in the gym, your shirt's off and you're yelling and smashing weights and, they're already like, I don't want anything to do with these guys. If they're professionals and they're doing this at a high level and they're getting paid a lot of money, well, you better come in and look like $1 million product too. Like, go in there, wear a collared shirt, put on a nice pair of pants, buy a new pair of tennis shoes, right? Go in there and show that you're a professional too. And that way now you're on the same ground because now you have two professionals talking to one another. I think you do those sort of simple things, and those communication lines are opening up very quickly.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great advice, man. That's really good advice. Do you guys offer training for coaches as well? Is that something that you guys do?
We are coming out with that model. Mm-hmm. We've been really working on it hard. We've spent a lot of time in that of how do we communicate what Advantage does out. And we're trying not to just come from a training standpoint. We're training from a mindset, relationship, coaching, customer service standpoint. Mm-hmm. And bridging the business, because I have an unbelievable business partner, Mark Santa-Steven, who won Club Owner of the Year 3 times and has consulted for Nike and has wrote the operation manuals for Nike. And his skill set is operations and systems. And if you ever get time to spend time with that guy, the learning you'll get from a business standpoint and how to grow is unbelievable. He consulted all over. So we're really trying to take our two worlds and bridge them together. So we're looking at coming out with that model. I think one of the biggest things that any coach can do that I've gone through is go through presenter school. If you get a chance to go through a presenter school, because that's what you're doing all the time. And I had the great opportunity of doing it at Tyler's Performance with Greg Rose. and I got my butt handed to me. I'll tell you that. I mean, got stuff thrown at me. But it was an unbelievable lesson from what to wear, what not to wear, how to stand, how to pose, how to present, how to communicate, how to ask questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that the industry can do. That you become a great presenter, you become a great trainer.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, man. Yeah. You come to think of it, especially, I taught so many classes, group classes, sometimes upwards of 40, 50 people where, most people, if you don't have any presentation skill, you'd probably freeze. I mean, the first class I ever taught was 2008. I was at LaLanne Fitness, which was Jack LaLanne's grandnephew, Chris. And, I just got a certification and I was filling in for a class and it was 20, 25 people sweating bullets, right? Just like trying to teach a power clean. I'm dripping sweat. So a presentation school. So tell me what that looks like exactly. What is a presenter school?
Sure. I think there's a couple different options. I think for us, it's looking outside of our industry.
Yeah.
I would definitely look outside of our industry. I mean, I was fortunate enough to do it because invited to go to speaker school for TPI and FMS. So I had that opportunity. I think there's a couple of different options out there. From that standpoint, I mean, they're gonna break you down from how you stand, how many times you sway back and forth. How many they'll count? How many times you say I mean, Greg was. I mean, you got up there. This is a funny story. They'll take you up there. Right when you get there, Greg gives you the expectations of what's going to happen. You get there and present and tell your why and how it relates to FMS and how it relates to TPI, and they filmed it. And then after everybody went, they put a chair right in the middle, and you have to sit in the middle chair. This is people from all over the world. They have to rate where they listen to you for 5 days, present, and they have to give you a scale of 1 to 10. Yeah. And they play the film right there, and he breaks you down right there. Like for me, I have dark circles. Like he's like, okay, never wear a dark shirt ever again. Go buy the brightest shirt you can for tomorrow. Guys had to shave their beards. Girls had to get their hair changed to make themselves more presentable, because the smallest things in a presentation can lose half an audience like that.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that sounds nerve-wracking.
But we ask people in the fitness industry to challenge themselves and fail, but we're not willing to do it ourselves as a fitness professional, right? Like, step outside your box.
Yeah,
you want to be a top business owner, you want to be a top business professional, go see what the top of the people do, and that's where you'll get outside the fitness industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really, really important point, Spencer, is that people have to get outside of the fitness industry. Even if it's a Toastmasters, if it's something so simple as that. And you know what? If you're looking for clients, it's a great place to meet new people and build your network too. It's outstanding all around. And everyone likes, if you get into a situation where everybody's vulnerable at one point, man, those bonds are strong, right? I mean, you probably remember, being in something like that and meeting all these people, and you guys will always be friends from that experience.
Well, that's why the gym business works. That's why we have such amazing communities in the gym business, right? Because I think you make your most amazing friends when you go through something extremely challenging together that you can relate to. Or you do something physically demanding where you have to rely on your brother. I mean, I went to military school, and I'll tell you, the 5 friends I have from military school and the people I play with in military school, they're closer. I'm closer to them than I grew up with my whole life in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's what makes it special, is when you be vulnerable, that's when great things happen. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I love it, man. So give us a little insight into the vision. Where do you see Spencer Tatum in 2 years? What do you see yourself doing?
Well, I think the vision is presenting. We've been branching out to do more of that, sharing the knowledge. I think the next thing also too is expanding our studio model. We're trying to grow to a nationwide franchise brand. That Advantage Training is a place that everybody wants to be a part of and no one wants to leave. And then also we have a unique partnership with a company out of Nova Scotia that builds our software that we'll be able to train people anywhere in the world, assess, collect their data, and then deliver a user-friendly model of online training with coaching solutions, not just from a training standpoint, but lifestyle and nutrition, but very simple. Like, did you sleep 8 hours? Are you drinking half your body weight in water? Are you eating protein? Are you vegetarian? If you're not doing those simple things, it's going to be really tough to have a really great training session.
Yeah. So what does that look like? What is that model that you're talking about with the people from Nova Scotia? What does that look like? Is that delivered through an application? Is it one-on-one?
It's a web-based
okay.
and web-based and application model.
Mm-hmm.
It has a reporting side where we can, and it's permission-based, that if, Eric, if you're a coach there and you have your box gym, we could assign that you're that coach and you have your clients that you're working with and you can only see your box and no one else can see your box. Mm-hmm. On a one-on-one coach on the high end, like where we want to have like a high-performance athlete where we have a medical professional connected to it, mindset, coach, management team, that they're all seeing that one athlete's in, it's HIPAA compliant, that's locked down, but then that athlete only sees what they need to know. I think that's also the thing too with technology and data is you need to be careful and think about how much you tell a person about their data. Because if you tell them too much, you could get into their play box when they're going to perform. The last thing you want to think that they're not ready to go. Because remember, just because you're red, like on an omega wave, doesn't mean it's not a go day. If you think about most people who've had their best performance, have probably been hungover. Right. But you just have to know there's a cost of doing business for competing at that level. So for Advantage, it's getting that model out there too, and our wellness company growing to where we're working with more and more corporations and groups and Native American groups, which has been a good end for us. Yeah.
Yeah. The wellness space is, that's a big space to get into, man. It's also ripe for disruption, in my opinion, too. I've got to talk to a lot of people, and I think it's, the model can change, especially with the inserting technology like you're talking about into the wellness space is a huge prospect for you guys. So that's interesting. Do you want to talk about, you mentioned some, a certification program that you'll have launching soon. Do you feel confident talking about that or telling people what that's going to be about?
Yeah, we're looking into coming out and showing how we're taking the current certifications out there. I think there's a lot of great things out there, but now how do you put it all together, right? When is the appropriate time? So when we look at the Advantage training system, we're trying to get people to understand, like, everything works, by the way, especially the deconditioned person. But now you get to after the 90 days of getting the best shape of your life, what do you do on day 92? Right. I think John talks about a lot.
Yeah.
But using very simple strategies and effective strategies to get people towards their goals, and knowing when is it appropriate to do kettlebell swings, when is it appropriate to do kettlebell swings overhead, when is it appropriate to do high-speed bungee cord training, when do they have the right time to do rotational power, and knowing how to progress them and how to regress them, which we call lateralizations, and how to use screening information to create a classification system to make better decisions is what our coaching program will be, with also the support of how to coach, how to build relationships, and then how to build a business.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That sounds really interesting. I would be down for that. It's you talk about John, you talk about all the greats, all the great people within the industry, and they all have this uncanny ability to take very complex things and boil it down to the simplest thing possible, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the beauty of it all. So it sounds like you guys are working on that as well. So Spencer, if people want to find you, if they want maybe to come and speak at an event, or just learn more about what you guys are doing at your company, where do they go? Where do they find you?
I think you can find us at www.advantagetraining.fit.
Okay.
That's our main source. That would be the one to go to. You're looking for wellness, go to advantagewellness.fit. And then for our athlete model, look at advantageathletes.com.
Right on.
That'll be the 3 ways to find us, but easy to find us at advantagetraining.fit.
Right on, man. Well, this is fun. I appreciate you coming on. It was good, circling back, like I said, after the 7-8 years and hear what you're up to. And you've come a long way, man. It's awesome. Congratulations.
6 degrees of Fitzy, baby. That's what it is.
I love it. Right on, Spencer. I'll talk to you soon, man. Have a great day. Thanks.
Right. You're welcome. Bye.
Hey, fitness fans, don't leave yet. It's your host, Eric Malzone, and I have a quick favor to ask. Actually, 3 favors. So, number 1, if you're a fan of our show, I ask you to do something that takes under 3 minutes. Go to iTunes, please, and subscribe to our show. Please, please, please. It means so much to us. It's so important. And then give us a favorable review. we would really, really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how much it means and helps us out. So I know it takes 2 minutes of your day, and it means a lot to us. So please do that. Number 2, go to our YouTube channel, our Fitness Marketing Alliance, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel there. Number 3, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that we've released,